address that one too. Then the third component was the philosophical component. What is it that informs her ideas, her decisions, her structural reforms for these institutions? Is she an anarchist? Maybe that is why institutions like WVTC, the NTA, even NAST and NSFAF don't have substantive heads. And these are issues that have been brought up before in Parliament.
Indeed. Now, regarding student politics, what kind of power and influence do students command these days? There used to be, I mean, people who are older than people who are older than us would talk about how NANS was very influential in the 1980s, for example. And then they seem to have lost a bit of steam as far as that kind of influence is concerned. How influential and how important is student politics in the present moment?
I think very, very influential. And I'm saying this to say this. It is the student bodies. You see, our higher education institutions and the student representative councils are designed in such a way that the student representative itself is not entirely independent. And that's why we find people like us who went to form the Student Union of Namibia, because we thought we must create a platform where this student representative council bodies are able to work with an outside body that is entirely autonomous, entirely independent of the university. And that is what I've really tried to do in the first few months of my term, is that I've tried to maintain a consultative relationship with all of them, with most of the student representative councils. We've held meetings together, and even students, you would see that I've met several groups of students, unemployed graduates and so forth. Most of these people come through their student representative councils. And I think we could be more influential now, but there's a precedent that has been set by organizations such as the NAMSOS, for example, because of course you understand the historical formation and the historical background of that particular organization, because it was linked to the liberation struggle. It was an uprising of young people who stood together and said, look, as students, we are going to fight a particular system following the events in South Africa. So you also understand really their relationships with the ruling party and so forth. But I think we are now living in an era where young people want to be represented, and they are not looking at party colors at all. That is why we formed an organization that we call Apolitical. It is an umbrella of student bodies that would endorse students for positions at their universities and also represent them despite their different political party affiliations and so forth. So really, I think if we find a proper way to get to effective functionality and cohesion, I think most student bodies will do a lot for the coming generations in the coming years.
My second last question is this one. So you are in active politics now. You are a former student of Dr. Jovan Panda, whom I think
I saw this one coming.
You hold in high regard also as a mentor of some sort. But come November, you'll be on opposite ends, especially in Windhoek, where he wants to contest for political office at the municipality of Windhoek. How is this the kind of politics that we want to have now, that people at a personal level, people are good, but you can still contest at a political level without any bad blood between the two groups?
Absolutely. I think it takes a special kind of maturity to do that. And I hold special, I hold people who are, or who have reached that level of maturity in very high regard. And in fact, like as you mentioned, Mr. Jovan Panda is one of those people. And our relationship really stems from way back. When I was a student, I really don't like getting my personal life involved in these things, but when I was a student, we really were struggling in the hostels as beneficiaries of the loan, by the way. I had to find a way to make ends meet. And so I volunteered in the faculty, and that is how I got to meet Mr. Chokwa Mpanda. And so ever since, I've really been learning from him a lot. And in fact, even before I joined this political party, he was one of the people that knew about it, because I said, look, I want to be in active politics, and it doesn't matter whether I get a position or not, but I want to be a part of some sort of grouping or formation, and so that I can try and be influential and try and influence decision making in the interest of my peers, and whoever really thinks that I can do something for them. So I think we are living in an era where we ought to reach a level of maturity where it doesn't really matter whether Toivo is Nudo or Brian is Swapo, so I cannot have tea with them. Because at the end of the day, we are moving towards an era where the politics will be driven by ideas, intellectualism, policy ideas, and not by party colors. So if we can establish that really, and I think we're getting there, but we have a long way to get there, and we have a long way to go. If we do that, it speaks to patriotism, really, because when you're a patriot, you do everything in the interest of the general citizen.
Sure. And just that reminds me of how's the relationship between, I think there are about 3 of you that are extremely young, young females in Parliament. It's yourself, is Honorable Emma Teofelis, who is on the Swapo side, and then we have Utara, Motu in LPM. You are all, contestants of one political cake, but how do you get along?
Well, it's easier for me and Utara to get along because we are on the opposition bench. But the other one, we've always had our differences. I mean, we served in the same council at the University of Namibia. She was Secretary General, I was Vice President. But we do, out of courtesy and out of respect, and I think it speaks to one's dignity. We do say hello.
Say hello. That doesn't sound too... Okay, the final question, the final question to you, Ina, is again, and sorry that I'm hammering on your age too much today, but when you are as young as yourself, 24 years old, you are in Parliament, opposition party in particular. I mean, for Swapo, it's a little bit different for a person like Emma. If Emma doesn't get voted to Parliament, for argument's sake, there are still many avenues because she belongs to a ruling party. She can be posted by the party president to other things. In your case, what does the future look like for you? Young, actively in politics already, just graduated last year. Do you see yourself consolidating your space in politics, or do you sometimes fear that you may fall off a cliff along the way?
Oh, believe it or not, and I think that is why, and I really, really encourage young people to try and find a mentor before you join politics, because they really prepare you, not just for the present, but also for the future. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm currently pursuing my master's, because politics is not a career that you can entirely rely on. There must be some sort of prospect for you. What if? There should always be that gray area of that. What if this doesn't happen, or what if this doesn't work out? Then where do I go? But I do have a passion in international relations and diplomacy. Whether I do that, and I don't have any interest in serving in any Swapo administration, by the way. But studies that I'm currently pursuing now. I have a great interest in writing. I actually do write. At the moment, I'm working on a book as well. So yes, I am preparing for the future, and it's not entirely dependent on the current as a member of Parliament, because also, I think yesterday, the Deputy Prime Minister, yesterday spoke about how she was still in the Ministry of International Relations since 1990. I don't think I want to have such a record, honestly speaking. I want to serve and groom people on the way and groom them to take over from me, and so that I also see the fruits of my work and of my labor. It's always good to do something, finish, start another thing like that, but also leaving some fruits and planting some seeds on the way.
Indeed. Honorable Ina Hengari, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. That is Ina Hengari. She is a member of parliament in the National Assembly on the ticket of the Popular Democratic Movement, PDM, speaking to us about some of the confrontations that she and the Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Ita Ganjumarangi, had in Parliament regarding student funding and whatnot. Thank you for watching. Good night.